Hey there, I'm Dan, and today I want to show you my newest game project. It's kind of like a budget Pokemon game with the numbers filed off, and I call it Clysmoids. Cue intro! There we go. So where were we? Clysmoids. It's a new project I had in my mind. If you know anything about me, then you know that I start these projects about every other week, in a flurry of inspiration. So the idea initially comes from I was playing like a Pictionary-esque game online with a couple of my friends, and it was Pokemon themed, so we had to draw a bunch of Pokemon, and none of these friends can actually draw very well. So it was very funny to see them draw very poorly the Pokemon. As well as come up with Pokemon names that are not actually Pokemon as far as I know. These like ugly Pokemon drawings kind of made me think I want to also try to make a Pokemon game. I don't love the game design of the Pokemon games, both the current one and the old ones. So I thought, can I make something like that, but as a one-person project, which is already kind of hard, of course, so it has to be like very small. So that's, and together with the fact that I think I want to share more games that I come up with in the phase where they're still very much brainstorms, because I think a lot of new game developers see like solo indie developer projects that have gone on for like 2 years, 3 years, 7 years, and they look polished, they look beautiful, like success stories. And I think most of the interesting ideas that I come up with never leave kind of the pen and paper prototyping phase. So I want to show a game before it's pretty. Partially because I think it's important to know that not all your ideas are going to pan out the way you hope. And also partially because then you guys can hold me accountable for all the projects I throw in the bin. And this is just the perfect medium to actually go about that. There are many Pokemon clones out there, especially indie Pokemon clones. But they all kind of, I feel like in terms of creature design, they always try to mimic what Pokemon does, and I feel like that's kind of intruding on well-tread territory, so I wanted to give it a little twist. And I was still thinking about the ugly drawings we made. My partner, she told me about Busukawa, which is a Japanese kind of slang term to refer to things that are cute and ugly. I don't know, like kind of off-putting, I guess. Off-putting but cute still, like pugs. I think very much fit that bill, with their weird little snubby faces. And the thing that came to mind was mutants. So yeah, ugly but cute Pokemon game, streamlined with no budget. Okay, that's where we're at. That's where we're at, I guess. I think the biggest thing I wanted to kind of diverge from Pokemon as a genre is the exploration part. I'm gonna get a lot of flack for, I think. Like Pokemon has this adventurous quality to it. Like you go into the world and you beat the gym leaders, you know, and you explore and you make these kind of like cute creature friends along the way. But I've always felt that, weirdly enough, it doesn't fit so well with the collecting part. The way it's implemented in the games is like the level design. It's always relatively restrictive. The first few games it was relatively linear, except for some like secret areas and stuff. And you basically zigzag through a world where people are waiting to fight you, like they're just standing there until you come in line of sight. It changed a little bit over the years, and now it's quite different. But still, I feel like the idea of walking through tall grass and finding wild Pokemon there to catch, it never really stuck with me. So I did some prototyping, which is always the first thing that I do. I come up with an idea, I have a little bit of a hook, and then I grab, like, basically I have a bunch of dry erase flashcards, like whiteboard material flashcards basically, to prototype things, like to get your ideas out. So I draw some little ugly Pokemon, which are not called Pokemon anymore, just to you know, for the lawyers out there who are trying to catch me for copyright infringement. I'm not drawing Pokemon, I'm drawing Clysmoids, okay? I know that sounds like a disease. Anyway, so I make a little prototype. I'll show you how I do that another time, because first off, I already erased all the prototype stuff, and secondly, I didn't make the camera setup to actually record that. I have a whiteboard desk, and those cards, it's fun. It's like great fun to just, you know, draw a bunch of things on there and get going. The first thing I prototyped was the combat system. What you can see here, just to get the idea of what combat could look like and kind of the rules down. Like I said, I prototyped it on pen and paper before. So the idea is you have like your team at the left, of course, and the enemy team on the right. So the idea is you have your monsters on this side, and the turn order is the thing that I'm really excited about. The turn order is basically a snake draft thing, which you can see in a lot of like hero shooters or hero-based like team games, competitive team games, where you have these competitive modes, and usually like both teams can pick heroes in a snake draft format. What that means is that like one team picks one hero, the other team picks two, then the other team, the first team picks two again, and so kind of like it snakes through like that. And what you can see here is the same. It's like you start first, then the enemy, then the other enemy, and then the round afterward it flips. So the enemy, the top right enemy goes first, then the little guy here. What's interesting about this is that in the game you can move. Basically, you can move and attack. That constitutes one turn of one of your creatures. But the turn order is tied to the positions, so to the tiles and not to the creatures, which means that if I go first with this guy, this beautiful guy that I named Cyclops, his name over here is just placeholder. I think they're all called Persiflatius there. But his like Clysmoid family name is Cyclops, because he has thighs that kind of look like a butt. Yeah. Anyway, he goes first, and he can potentially move downward and end his turn there, which means that he gets another turn when number 4 is up. And I think this is very interesting because it potentially allows you to move around your strengths and weaknesses against the enemy team, you can basically take another turn on one of your monsters with the cost that you skip one of the other monsters in your team. The other thing is that you attack the enemy that's directly opposed to you, so at the tile of the other side of the screen, at that height. So this guy Cyclops will attack this guy Mosquitorch if he ends his turn here, but if he moves one tile downward to number 4, he will attack this kind of empty space that could potentially have another monster in it. You have to move before you attack, because of that kind of, you attack the opposite creature. It's already kind of tactically pleasing to move them around even when I didn't implement anything else yet. Just the fact that you have multiple creatures with different stats and move them around in a turn order is already kind of fun, even though it's super basic. So that's the moment when it really clicked and when I was like, okay, maybe this is a project I can invest some time in and see where it goes for now. Yeah, so that's the combat side of things. So I want them to be cute and ugly, which means kind of tragic as well, in my opinion. Like, it's quite tragic to be both cute and ugly. There's like a peacefulness, like a kindness and a tragedy to it. So instead of making it attack, I'm gonna make them hug each other. But because they're of different clans, which is what I call kind of the Pokemon types system, because they're of different clans, they're kind of weak to each other. So when Cyclops hugs this guy, things go wrong basically, because they can't stand each other's biology, physiology, I guess. Their physiologies don't match, so they hurt each other accidentally, but they just want to be friends. Yeah, that's for sure tragic, right? Speaking about the clans, right? So in Pokemon you have types, right? You have type weaknesses and strengths. Those are the things that kind of create the super effective part of an attack. And I feel that's quite like at the core of Pokemon, that you have all these different types. It ties into the collection of it, so you can categorize things, you can have a favorite type, but I feel like right now, like they grew the chart so much, and honestly the original chart as well with the original generation doesn't make that much sense. Like, there's very weird weaknesses out there. The categorization is very kind of arbitrary almost, and the weaknesses even more so. Yeah, so I was looking for a way to have my own kind of elemental thing going on. I looked just in the classical element and tried to make a little chart with that, but it feels kind of too generic. Yeah, after that I was thinking about what can I do to make it a little bit more original. So I came up with like very silly clans. I made a goopy one, which is basically like sludgy Clysmoids, like everything that's kind of melting or fluid, you know, like sticky. Those kind of mutants will be in there. Then there's the bony ones that is kind of like everything exoskeleton, carapace. I don't know. Insectoid kind of things with no kind of living flesh on it anymore. So just like very bony things, dry and hard basically. Then the glowy ones are kind of like radioactive ones, so you know, green light, blue fire, weird energy things, radiation, gamma rays, nuclear things. Then there's the gassy ones. These ones are kind of, I'm still maybe wanting to change them, because I can't think of so many good designs for the gassy ones. I really can only think about like, you know, I don't know, 2-3 interesting designs, visually speaking. If you can come up with like a bunch of cool gassy, ugly but cute gassy Pokemons, like the idea is that they're made from gas, I guess. If you can come up with some of that stuff, let me know. Otherwise, I'm probably gonna change it for something else. I also had hairy in mind, like having hairy Clysmoids, which kind of could be like, I can come up with better ideas for that. And then the last one is fleshy, which is just kind of all muscle, skin and meat. Too many limbs, way too buff, eyes and tongues and noses in the wrong places. Yeah, just like a mess of meat. So that's like the clans. I'm pretty happy with that setup. I think 5 is a pretty good amount as well. So 5 is a pretty good amount for this thing that I call the weakness pentagram, or pentacle, I guess. There's a balance in it that's not too complicated. every clan has 2 weaknesses and 2 strengths. 2 weaknesses, 2 clans that are weak to 2 clans that they're strong against. Yeah, and then the other thing about Pokemon that I don't like so much is that the elemental chart, it plays a very big part in the world and the combat system of Pokemon, but it's only, as far as I know, like in the games that I played, it only affects damage that you deal. So when something is super effective, you deal, I think, like 2 times or 2.5 times more damage, where if something is weak, if you're weak against element, you only deal half damage. And it's effective, I guess, but it's not very interesting. And when my mind goes to like elemental interactions, I immediately think of like Larian Studios games, like Baldur's Gate 3 and previously Divinity Original Sin 1 and 2, which have these like interesting elemental systems in already a strategy game context. You have like surfaces of different elements that interact with each other, and I think personally, like that's a great way to go about it. It's playful, but it's strategic. It's interesting in a lot of like different aspects, and it's fun. It's like as soon as you figure it out and you use it successfully, the game becomes a playground for that kind of thing. So that's kind of what I referencing when I made this system. So instead of going for like double damage and half damage, I went for more of like a status effect thing. What I think is very important here is that you need, like, the status effects themselves, they set something up for one of your other team members so that there's like interplay between the amount, like the free monsters that you pick basically. So I don't want to immediately have an effect based on the status effect, but I wanted to kind of create some setup for your other monsters basically. And I'll take you through the clans real quick, just to see what I tried to come up with. I won't do all of them, but just like a couple of them. So for example, when you attack another clan with the clan that's attacking right now and it's weak to it, it applies a specific status effect, which then another monster can use to kind of finish him off or whatever. Fleshy, for example, Fleshy is strong against Goopy because if a Fleshy hugs a Goopy, it sounds so weird now that I say it out loud. It's all kind of stuff. In my head it sounded a lot better. When a fleshy Pokemon, when a fleshy Clysmoid hugs a goopy Clysmoid, it becomes flattened because the fleshy ones are too strong and the goopy ones are too fluid. So, and it like steps on it and that means that it can't move anymore. And the goopy ones are kind of like specialized in doing crowd control, so the fact that it can't move anymore, it's pretty hard counter. But it doesn't actually make the fleshy do anything like any more damage to it or something. So what you do is you flatten the goopy one, and then another one of your monsters can like lock in to finish it off or something. So that kind of interplay is kind of what I'm going for. Another example is like the goopy one on the glowy one. The glowy one is kind of a glass cannon thing. The goopy one is strong against it because it douses it. So like it tries to hug it and then it douses kind of its flames and coats it in a sticky goo. So it can't effectively do that anymore. It's basically shielded, like radiation shielding. So it gets doused, and then its next attack does half damage. And so, since it's a glass cannon, it's kind of good for your whole team if it can not output as much damage as it should. And once again, it's not something that kills it, but it's something that makes it less effective. So the main idea is that the status effects kind of undermine the role of each clan. So if you have a negative status effect applied to that clan, it undermines kind of the function it has in your team. And this goes, of course, for you against the enemy, but also the other way around. So you have to be careful with your positioning so that the enemy doesn't do the same thing to you, basically. And that's about it for the combat part. So yeah, the combat part, I tried to program it already. I have it working here. I'll try to show you. So this is what I talk about when I say that games, when you first make them, they're still ugly. This is working. All of this is working. I can move my boys. I can move them around. When I end the turn, they will attack the boy across from it. It all works. Is it beautiful? No. Does it clearly communicate what I'm trying to convey? No, absolutely not. But I know how it works and I can move them around. Potentially I can even like get someone on Parsec and play it against them. So yeah, you can see here the turn order, the snake draft, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I just moved my Cyclops. I just moved my Cyclops to attack this Mosquito-Torch. Like I said, they're the kind of the glass cannons here. So I'll try to kill that one first. I don't have an AI yet, so I'm just playing against myself basically. So yeah, I think in this case, I want to be able to attack with my Mosquito-Torch. I want to finish this Mosquito-Torch, and since the enemy will be the Mosquito-Torch, my enemy Mosquito-Torch will go after the Cyclops. It's a good idea to attack the Cyclops, pop back here, and attack this one. But I also implemented like the basic status effect. So here you can see this very aggressive looking boot stomp is the flatten status that I described here, the fleshy one against the goopy, it gets flattened. And there you go. So now it has this little status effect that shows that it can move. And it can't, like I already programmed that. And yeah, that just kind of continues on until you finish them off, or if they finish you off, basically. Not that beautiful, but it works. And it just only took me like this entire process, so making it from the get-go, designing everything, making the mock-up, and programming this thing in Godot. I took 2 weeks for it, but I didn't work full-time on it. Like I worked, I think like maybe 10 hours a week on it. It's not beautiful, but it works. It's functional. It proves the design that I'm trying to get to. Maybe next vlog I will tell about like, you know, I want to Slay the Spire dungeon in it. I want to have Darkest Dungeon, a hub world that ties everything together. Because now it looks like a good idea, but it's completely out of scope. So I'm just gonna streamline it, workshop it, and prototype it. Which I guess I can do that in the next vlog. I'll prototype the hub world kind of thing. But I think this is probably enough for today. So yeah, thanks for stopping by again. That's it. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you think this kind of stuff is interesting, share the video with your friends. Get some people on board. Okay. See ya.